Hickenlooper for CNN Democratic Presidential Town Hall. We have one more audience question, but before we get to that, we've been looking at your memoir, and you have a lot of interesting stories in that book. One of them is about the time you went to see an X-rated movie with your mother. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much for that question.
Anytime.
I thought it was better to write a book to let people really see who you were and the dumb things you did as well as the smart things.
And where is that on the spectrum?
On the dumb side.
Okay.
I was the youngest of four, and as I said, my dad died right after I turned 8, and my mother and I had a pretty tempestuous relationship. She was just the most amazing person. And I went off to college, and for the first time, she was alone in the house. And I didn't realize how powerful that was until I got home at Thanksgiving, and I promised, I called a friend in Philadelphia, and these were I didn't know what an X movie was. We thought it was a little naughty, but we didn't think it was that bad. Again, you gotta understand, I was 18 years old. And so I came home, and my mother hated to cook. I mean, she was just a strong, powerful woman who got stuff done in her own right. And I got home, and she had this huge dinner laid out. And I said, oh, I promised Jed that we would go to the movie theater and see this new movie. You want to come? And it's an X movie. I don't know. And, I was sure that she wouldn't say no. I made a mistake. And she said, I'd love to go, because she didn't want to be left alone in the house again.
It was a pretty famous movie, too.
So I took my mother to see Deep Throat. And to her credit, the first scene is... I didn't ask the question. But I will tell you that my mother was, I'm sure she was mortified. And I said repeatedly, I think we should leave, I think we should go. And my mother was the kind of person that rarely went to a movie. She thought almost every movie would get on TV. Obviously not this one. But she really, once she paid, she was going to stay. And at the end, she knew that I was humiliated. And as we drove home, and you know how the dashboard in the old cars had that kind of green light? And I asked her, I said, well, that was some experience. And she says, well, I thought the lighting was very good in the movie. I thought I saw a little grin in that green light.
Let's get back to the audience.
Yeah, please.
Mary Colburn, a CPA from right here in Atlanta.
Thank you. As a pragmatic progressive, my vote will go to the candidate that is able to flip those middle-of-the-road Trump supporters and has a realistic plan to combat the country's largest issues. What is your plan to dispose of the socialist branding paraded by many conservatives? And how do you plan to appeal to Trump voters who have fundamental policy differences with Democrats, but don't feel like there's a place for them in Trump's Republican Party?
Wow, that's a great question. That is so on spot. Let me just say that I don't like labels. I understand they get used all the time, but they generally objectify people and they diminish them. I was asked if I wanted to be a capitalist, or if I was a capitalist, and my one response was, in the end, it's as if you asked if I was a nerd in high school, in which case I would have said, well, it's not my first label I'd choose, but it'd be hard to argue with, right? And, if you're going to give me a label, I am a capitalist. I started 20 businesses. I created 1,000 jobs. I helped reinvent a large part of downtown. And I think what we're doing with workforce training and making sure all kids of all ages have the skills to engage, at a high level with these new jobs that are going to come out by the millions. Right now, there are many millions of jobs that require higher levels of skills that businesses can't get filled. And I look at, I understand that the middle class is shrinking, right? And that just because corporations have record profits, it doesn't mean that the country is doing better. I understand that millennials don't hate the idea of buying a house and starting a family. They're just buried in mountains of debt. I understand that Generation Xers, that they shouldn't have to choose between taking care of their parents and sending their kids to college while at the same time not having anything for their own retirement. And I think those are going to be some of the questions that those people that voted for Trump didn't feel they were getting an answer from in the Democratic Party. And I think I can do what we did in Colorado. When I started, we were 40th in job creation. We became, for the last 2 years, according to U.S. News and World Report, the #1 economy in the country. And we did it by embracing everybody. Everyone was part of designing that. Everyone was expanding access to capital, cutting red tape and bureaucracy, making it easier for entrepreneurs to start businesses. We can do this on a national level and really lift up the entire country.
Governor, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you very much. And thank you, our audience here in Atlanta. Thank you for